Comment ça va? That means how you doing. Me, I'm Tinun. Well, today we're talking about Space Invaders. Today, I'm gonna build a light-up Space Invaders game board. And to accomplish this, I'm gonna use some jeweler's wax, set up and pour a few molds, use alcohol ink mixed with clear resin, and also do a little bit of woodworking in the process. Plus we'll have some other fun and silly stuff. If that sounds good to you, then let's get our craft on. Okay, to try to make my Space Invader figures, I'm going to be using this wax, which is usually used to make jewelry. I was really hoping that the wax was going to come smooth right out of the package, but no, I've got to sand it. Okay, this is good enough to transfer the drawing.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Since my son absolutely refuses to ever introduce me on this show, I'm Tinu's daddy.
Hey, I didn't notice you sitting there.
You are a terrible liar. So what are you making now?
Well, I'm transferring this drawing to carving wax, and this is the laser gun in the Space Invaders game.
Space Invaders? Tinu, did I tell you that I was the champ of Space Invaders?
No. I've got to explain to people what I'm doing. So I'm using a jeweler's saw here to very carefully cut out these shapes in the wax.
Boring.
Now, when I first came up with the idea for this project, I thought of a bunch of different mediums to maybe try to cut these shapes out of, like foam, wood, Sculpey, monster clay. But the ability to be able to really shape this hard wax and cut it with a saw was what sold me on it.
Picture this. The year is 1982. The arcade is packed, and Pac-Man fever is blasting over the sound
Daddy,
system.
this is not the video for your wild tales.
You're doing a video on Space Invaders. You have the world's record holder for Space Invaders sitting right next to you, and you shut him down.
Yeah, so after I sanded these two pieces smooth, I started using this Sculptix modeling clay to build a mold wall around it. I'm gonna mold and then cast these two pieces in clear resin. Now what I love about this clay is that it's so soft, which makes it really easy and fast to get around your piece. I'm mixing up some silicone, and then I'm going to put it in a degassing chamber, because to use this brand of clear resin, you really need a pressure pot to get most of the bubbles out. And if you use a pressure pot without degassing the silicone, you can really run into some problems. See all these bubbles popping? That's all of the air being pulled out of the silicone. Now, speaking of problems, I really made a mistake here.
I am not surprised.
See, I spent so much time setting up the shots to film this that the silicone started to harden. So I decided to try it anyway and use my finger to get around the edges. It didn't totally work. You can see several defects where the silicone didn't cover the piece. However, this one came out fine. So I'm going to build two more. Let's try it again. That's the viscosity that I needed.
Can I tell my Space Invaders story now?
No, this is a crafting video.
About Space Invaders. World champ sitting right here.
No. So on this project, I ran into a whole host of problems. The first one being that I had to bulk up some of the pieces of the characters, or they wouldn't translate into the real world. They would just break apart.
You make crafting videos and then you talk about the real world as if you had a clue. Priceless.
I'm ignoring you.
Many have tried and many have failed.
So as I was cutting out the alien invaders, it dawned on me that these were going to take at least 2 days just to cut out. Then I made another shocking realization using math. I happened to agree with Mad Max on this one, so I got out my calculator. This is how many invaders need to be made. There's 5 rows with 11 characters each. So that's 5 times 11, so 55 characters total. And then each resin casting takes approximately 16 hours to demold safely. So that's 55 times 16, and that's 880 hours. And then 880 hours divided by 5, because 5 is the amount of molds that I could do at once. That's 176 hours. So 176 hours divided by the amount of hours in a day, which is 24, equals approximately 7.5 days. Plus 2 days to actually sculpt the pieces. So we're looking at 9.5 days if every casting goes perfectly, which never happens. And that's where this ice tray is going to come in. These are not 100% replicas of the Space Invader characters because they ran into the same problems I did, plus copyright issues. But we're going to use it anyway.
People are gonna ask for their money back, you know.
This video is free.
Why on earth do you do this?
Because I like it. So this is test number 1 in the pressure pot. Let's do some more. On my pressure pot, the stars have to align.
Picture this. The year is 1979. The arcade.
Earlier you said 1982.
Picture this. 1982 packed arcade. The sound system's pumping Pac-Man fever, and I make my grand entrance. So I roller skate through the door with my hair all feathered, wearing my favorite Three's Company t-shirt and my short shorts.
Oh boy.
And several of the girls scream, almost like the Beatles were coming in.
And you sure that was adulation and not fear?
Yes, I'm 80% sure it had nothing to do with the restraining order.
What?
Anyway, I would only ever bring 1/4 into the...
Hold on, I have to explain this part. So to get everything consistent and to get the colors consistent, I had to measure everything out to a specific size by using a pre-made template, keeping notes on the amount of drops and colors that I'm mixing together. See, for the amount of characters that I'm doing, I'm gonna have to do more than 1 pour of each color.
This is painfully boring.
Okay, Dad, tell us your story so we can get this over with.
Prepare to be amazed. Okay, like I said, the year is 1981, parachute pants are all the rage, disco is dead as a doornail, and 2 unknown chiropractors are tearing up the charts with a little song called Man-Eater, written because of the game Miss Pac-Man, of course.
Man-Eater wasn't written about Miss Pac-Man.
I think Michael C. Hall and Billy Oates of Hall & Oates, maybe you've heard of them, would disagree.
I stand corrected.
So I roller skate into the packed arcade. People gasp. It's like they're seeing royalty on wheels. I skate up to the Space Invaders cabinet and slap my 1/4 on top of the game. And it was on that fateful night in front of my adoring fans that I set the world's record on Space Invaders.
Then how come it says here on the internet that John Tannehill is the world's record holder?
Well, Mr. Matern, the owner of the arcade, refused to acknowledge my high score to the Guinness book because he hated me. He had it out for me, big time.
Well, it's funny. Mama says that you were banned from the arcade because you caused too many plumbing issues in the little bathroom.
Well, that may be true, but that's not why I was banned.
Why were you banned?
Well, one night as Mr. Matern was closing up, I had to get a little rough with the candy machine because it stole my money. However, I didn't know those machines were designed to tip over when attacked, which it did. The thing that really burns my bottom is that I'm positive Mr. Matern heard me screaming for help, but he locked up the shop anyway. And when I got out the hospital, let me tell
wait,
you...
you were hospitalized because the machine fell on you?
Not because of the machine. Luckily, that fell on my stomach, but I was covered in over 2,000 ant bites. They came for the candy that fell out the machine, new. But those hostess ding-dongs were the only thing standing between me and starvation. And let me tell you something, I had them on the ropes till my eyes swole shut, and then they had their way with me.
Now here I'm just laying out some lines for where each of the characters is going to be placed. What I'm building now is sort of a shadow box for the entire base plate to sit in, and I'm using my technique of a slow drying glue combined with a fast drying glue, in this case super glue and wood glue, to get a fast tack but then with a lot of strength. See that? It's tacked together already. Let's let it dry overnight. So I've pre-wet the wood so that I can get a stain with just regular acrylic paint. And then you just wipe away a little bit and the wood grain shines through. My whole work area ended up looking like a Smurf murder scene. Alright, this is the same technique. Fast tack with hot glue, slow dry with wood glue, and then we weigh this thing down in the most scientific way possible. Science. Now, I want to add some graphics to the side of my build, similar to how they do cabinet art on these old video games. I love the way this looks. I combined some of this amazing artwork in Photoshop, and I'm using rubber cement to attach it to the side of the base. And once that was dry, I covered this printout with a fixative, which will keep the graphics from smearing when I apply this polyurethane. And the polyurethane is to lock things in and give it a gloss. This Art of Atari book is pretty cool. Look at this, it's like the first Pong cabinet. It gives a nice little history of how Atari started. And of course, here's some Space Invaders art for the Atari 2600. Now I do realize that Space Invaders wasn't created by Atari. It was created by the company Taito, and the man who invented it is Tomohiro Nishikado. Man, I hope I'm this cool when I'm in my 80s. Check this out, this is Tomohiro's sketchbook of the alien invaders, which were inspired by H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, a sea crab, a squid, and a cuttlefish. Okay, I hope you thought it was fun to look at some of the art of Atari and also to learn a little history about Space Invaders. It was also fun learning about E.T., which was the worst video game disaster in Atari's history. It was so bad they threw all the cartridges that were left over in a landfill. Check this out. I have a robot friend named Volt, and he saw me post some of my invader pics on Patreon, and he created this Tinu's Invaders game for me. He's the same bucket of bolts that's creating the No Dig Bill game for Craftsman. Go download the game, it's free.